Welcome to this episode of ISV Talks. And on this episode, I have my special guest, Fawaz Hussein from Nodus. Well, welcome, Fawaz.
Hello, Carol. Thank you for having me over here.
Thanks for joining. I feel like I've known you forever, but do you want to do an introduction of yourself and your company and how long you've been with the company?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm Fawaz Hussain. I'm a senior director of B2B software sales at Nodus Technologies. We're part of a company called Evo Payments. And yeah, I've been with the company for over 15 years now. So we have known each other forever. When I first joined Nodus, it was a small start, almost in a startup phase company. And then over the years, we've grown and now we are part of a larger corporation called Evo Payments, which is now Global Payments.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Maybe I know Nodus was around a while on the channel, but could you kind of just talk about the company history?
Yeah, it is actually a bit of an interesting story, especially for people who have been in the channel. The founder of Nodus, his name is Dante Kim. He used to be an employee at McCorma. McCorma, under Ora Goldman, is a company that focuses on check printing and AP automation. This is before Microsoft bought GP. This is when Great Plains was just Great Plains. Dante focused on a solution called credit card processing, CCP, which essentially was the first payment processing solution for Great Plains. And when Microsoft acquired GP back in 2001, 2002 timeframe, around that time, we decided to start a company called Nodus that will be focused primarily on payment processing, on credit card processing, while McCormack can focus on check printing. So since then, that has been Nodus's focus, and that's essentially how Nodus became a company on its own.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about your products and what are they for Dynamics and what other products are you compatible with?
we are actually, the question is right, we are compatible with a lot of other ISV products too, but to the answer first part of the question, the product in general, so we specialize in AR automation, essentially incoming payments, right? So as a company, when you collect payments from your customers, that's essentially what we specialize in. We started off with just plain credit card processing solution. Then we added check processing like ACH. So if you want to take check payments from your customers, and then it expanded over to a full-blown AR automation tool that has a lot more than just credit card processing. It has tools such as customer-facing payment portals. It helps you manage subscription businesses, auto payments, many other functionality pertaining accounts receivables. We started off with Great Plains only. Then now over the years, we have expanded we cover all Microsoft ERPs, the legacy on-prem one, which is Great Plains, AX, but as well as the Dynamics 365, which is Business Central's Finance and Ops. So we cover all Microsoft. We also have compatibility into Acumatica. We have a solution for Sage. In Sage, we are in Intact and Sage 300 space. SAP, we cover all SAP. We started with SAP ECC and S4HANA, but now pretty much all SAP aspects like B1 by design. And then we also have a solution for Oracle, which is on the EBS side, eBusiness Suite. So we covered those 5 major ERPs.
That's a lot. You really expanded, so it's amazing. And so talk about your unique features. I know you mentioned that you've added now more AR automation and other payment types, but what are your unique features and tell us about, kind of how you differentiate yourself against competitive products in this space?
Yeah, no, good questions. Actually, so you know how you just said there's a lot of ERP. In all reality, yeah, it's not as much. It's actually just the right amount. And our strategy into getting into ERP is either buy versus build, like whether you acquire a company who has a payment solution for those ERP or build it. So on SAP and Sage, we actually acquired a company which was similar to how Nodus was on the Microsoft space. But then I say what is unique about us is that we have a small group of ERPs that we support, just 5 of them, and we are very, very dedicated to that. But in terms of our product strategy, we have always been very security focused. So PCI compliance has always been our number one focus. So everything that we have designed, whether all the features that we launch, we keep that in mind. Our idea is how do we make it easy for merchants to be PCI compliant. With that in focus, like if that's how we started expanding our feature sets as well. So all the new features we roll out is essentially what makes it not just easy, but also to secure their payment collection. PCI is essentially number one focus. Then secondly, I would say is we are a processor ourselves. So I just mentioned in early part in the introduction that we are part of a company called Evo Payments, which is now part of Global Payments, which makes us one of the largest payment processor globally. But the benefit that our customers get is that we are essentially our own solution provider, like end-to-end. We own the entire end-to-end solution. So we have developed our own software as well as we own the back-end processing as well. Why is this important? From the merchant's perspective, from the customer's perspective, now they don't have to deal with multiple vendors. So you asked about our competitors. Every competitor in the space is a reseller of another processor. Most of them are actually reseller of our
Really?
processing. Yeah, which essentially by taking middleman out, obviously it reduces price. So the rates that they get through us for payment processing are significantly lower than others. But I would say the bigger ROI that they get, the bigger benefit is on the support experience. As you can imagine, as being a business owner, when it comes to payments, your threshold of your patience is low if your system is down. If you have let's say if your payment system is not working, you want that to get it fixed as soon as possible, immediately. You don't want to run a business where you can't take payments from your customers. With us, if our merchants essentially, if they run into a problem, they call us. All of our support staff is right here. Actually, for all the dynamics, I'm sitting out of the Anaheim, California office, and this is where all of our teams are. So in-house we develop and in-house we support. And no matter where the problem is, whether the problem is on the application layer or if the problem is on the processing gateway side, we will fix that problem through one phone call, and we will essentially help our customers out. As opposed to, but if it, like in other cases, let's say if you rely on third parties, then you would have to put multiple parties on a conference call before you can figure out where exactly is the problem and who's responsible to fix it. I
Kind
would
of
say,
this going on, right? And like,
oh,
oh, that might be a
exactly.
gateway issue, or that might be the processor. Or,
Yeah, and you probably remember those from the old days as well, like a lot of finger pointing, right? Because you call the software company to say, hey, everything's running on the final software. This error code is coming from the gateway, and calling for your processor or your bank to help is it can be very difficult. So customer service is probably one of the biggest reason why customers or partners choose to endorse us. But then also, I would say one last thing I want to add on that is being so payments focused, like being a processor, being a primarily a payments focused company, have expertise in that area where we can essentially offer the wide array of payments, payment solutions, such as, so now our solutions, I mentioned earlier, like we don't just do credit card, but we also provide ACH, bank transfers situation, which is becoming a big in a B2B space. And then another part that we focus on, another feature such as could be like credit card surcharges, that becoming popular. Unless if you have a full end-to-end solution, nobody else, it can be very difficult for others to offer, especially to do it legally, because there's so many legal constraints around how can you impose surcharges on your credit card. We can help with that. And then lastly, I would say level 2, level 3. Level 2, level 3 is like this additional level of data that we submit at the time of processing. And that is, so typically when you process a credit card, your amount is sent over to the processor, and then they process it, right, with the credit card number. Level 2 and level 3 is additional level of data. Level 2 could be like your header information on your invoice, like invoice number, PO numbers. Level 3 could be like line items and all that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so think about it from the Visa, MasterCard, like interchange level. They reward you with a better rate because they feel that this is a secure transaction, right? Because the more information you provide, the less risky the transaction is. So that's, from their perspective, it's a safer transaction. So as a merchant, you get better rates. So a lot of companies like to do level 2, level 3 processing just so they can save money on processing. And it's really easy for us to do that because we have a solution inside of an ERP. We know exactly what data to grab from where, and we are the processor. So essentially, we're the ones communicating directly with Visa, MasterCard. So we send them the right data. So that I would say that probably is some of the competitive edge that we have.
What have you seen and what changes have happened in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so I would say that one of the biggest change, and it's a good change, would be the emergence of cloud, right? Although,
Right.
again, we do this panel discussion together where we talk about that cloud is not something new. Cloud has been around for a while, but then it's becoming more and more prominent in the B2B space, right? Like in the ERP world, with the high-speed internet being accessible everywhere in the world per se. So a lot of companies are looking into an option where they can essentially just have a cloud-based solution. And why not? You cut down so much on your IT infrastructure cost and other overhead expenses by just putting everything on cloud. So I would say cloud is probably becoming more popular. A lot of ERPs are moving in that direction. A lot of ISVs are moving in that direction. With cloud, I will say that another benefits that ISVs are getting, especially like solution providers, is the emergence of marketplaces. A few years ago, 10 years ago, the only way to find what payment solutions are compatible with Great Plains is through reseller partners or through a list. I think there was something called the list that had a list of all the ISV solutions
Right.
on the back of a magazine, right? But now a lot of this information is available online. You essentially have Microsoft has a marketplace, Acumatica, pretty much all of them have a marketplace now.
Yeah.
You can essentially upload your app. People can, and as long as you're doing a good search engine optimization, people can find your listing, read your reviews, watch your videos, watch your demo, and in most cases, just download an app and at least give it a test run, right? Like take it for a test
Right.
drive. But with that, so in that, one of the things that being a sales leader, what I tell my teams and what we focus on is also understanding the buyer's journey, right? So because of that, the buyer's journey has changed. 10, 15, 20 years ago, a typical buyer journey would be 20% marketing and then 80% sales. So because marketing is essentially when you publish an ad in a magazine or get a TV ad or a billboard, but then 80% is on sales reps making phone calls and trying to do cold calls to win businesses. That has changed and that has become more into 80% marketing and 20% sales. So
Mhm.
studies shows that by the time somebody connects with you or by the time somebody calls their partner that, hey, I'm looking for a payment solution, they have already done most of their research. They have done a lot of their homework beforehand.
Mhm.
Some study says that they're 80% into their buying process by the time they talk to you. So
Wow.
that's becoming important. But with that, I would say one negative thing, because we talk all the positive things, one negative thing is that what I think I would give all of our viewers a caution to keep an eye out for is that it has also made it really easy for third parties or for any development company or developer to create a app and just upload it up on the marketplace. So because of that, there are a lot of apps that are not as integrated as could be advertised. See, before it had to go through a thorough vetting process of being certified, and which still is there, but as a partner reseller, they do their job to make sure that, hey, this is a good product before I tell my customers about it. This does, in fact, 100% integrate with this ERP. Now, what's happening is that because a kid in a dorm room at some college across the world can write up software and put it on the app up in the app store. But what most of them then after they go through their buying cycle or downloading an app, they realize that, oh, it's not as integrated as you think it is. It basically is a set of APIs that somebody will have to manually do that integration work. So that is something that you got to be cautious of. That try to when you do search for any third-party product, just look for longevity and look for brand names. That really helps.
Maybe you could tell us about a particular customer or how they've been successful with your product and why.
Um, okay, so I mean, we have a lot of customers. One that come top of my mind is just because we just talked about level 2, level 3 processing. So I'll give you an example of someone that we boarded not too long ago. So I mentioned that level 2, level 3 data is essentially additional data that you can send processors, right? Just to get, and most companies do it just for getting better rate. But For a lot of businesses, it's actually a mandatory requirement. Think of a business such as any business that deals with government issue cards, looking for better way of tracking spending of their government employees when they're traveling. So what the whole idea was spending tracking, not necessarily for getting better rates and whatnot, right? So we came across a customer who actually needed it because they wanted to track. They're a big medical supply company that they sells to VA hospitals, and those hospitals use government issued credit cards. Now, for that, the government issued credit cards, you need to submit PO numbers all the way to the end of the customer statement. Otherwise, they cannot use that credit card and they cannot purchase through you. So it became to a point where they process a huge, they have a very heavy volume, and they weren't able to take orders from their customers because the pressure they had from the government on, they can only use processors or software that supports level 2, level 3 processing. So we came into picture. We figured out exactly why others couldn't do it, because everyone else had, whoever says they're supporting level 2, level 3, they were doing enough just so Visa and MasterCard can give them credit. And a lot of them were just sending fake data just to satisfy the requirement. But in this case, they wanted the actual data to end up on the customer statement. So the way we were able to do it, because we own the software, so we know exactly where to get that data from. And then we also own the back process, which is actual processing with Visa, MasterCard, and American Express, whatnot. So we were able to track that process and ensure that that data, the PO number that they're looking for, ends up on a customer invoice. When we showed them, they were very, very happy about it, and it was a great win. And also a good endorsement of how our product is working, not just to help you save money, but also covering the entire process.
Yeah, and you get that nice audit trail, right? For audit
Yes.
purposes, all that detail line item. So what are some of the new things that Nodus is looking to add to the product and help clients as they move to the cloud?
On the cloud side, it gives there tremendous benefits that comes along, right? Why have an application in cloud? But to maximize those benefits, one of the things that we are focusing more on is make our development tools easier. So make it easy for developers to connect to our payment cloud. So this way, a merchant can get a true omni-commerce experience. So think about this way, right? Like, let's say if you're running a company and you have an e-commerce, you have mobile apps, you have sales reps who are selling things on the field, and then you have your customer-facing payment portals, and then you have your ERP system. In an ideal world, you want to have a payment system that is connected. So this way you don't have to reconcile every channel or every device separately, right? We already have plugins into many shopping carts, some of the major ones like, Magento, WooCommerce and whatnot, but also like some of the ones within the channel. But then let's say if you have a custom e-commerce solution or any custom app, we have these really, really easy to use APIs now available, which help you directly connect into our payment cloud. So I did mention that we are part of now a larger corporation called Global Payments. Global Payments is one of the largest payment processing platform in the world. They own TSYS, Heartland, some of the big names. It's all under the Global Payments umbrella. With that, our goal is to expand our offerings. So at the moment, we have a very strong presence in US and Canada, but we're trying to expand it globally in other international countries as well. So that is something exciting. And then one part that I've been pushing, and personally, because I'm really, I'm a geek by heart, and I love AI, everything AI related. AI is such a huge topic right now. So we've been researching a lot into embedding some AIs into our solution too. So have things like predictive payments or any AI-based, type of help that are features that can essentially help our processes or the software processes, so make it more efficient. So we've been doing a lot of research into that as well.
Any observations from partners or customers about what's happening in this space?
One thing that I have observed is the focus security is becoming a bigger concern now, and it's always been, so don't get me wrong, I mean, it's always been a important subject, because with the increasing number of fraud and data theft and identity thefts and whatnot, security has always been a concern, but it's becoming even more of a bigger deal now. Primarily it all started from the pandemic, when the whole shift to work from home started. All of a sudden, when jobs that you would have never thought would be remote had to go remote, not by choice, by force, right? I mean, because you have no other option. So with that, all of a sudden, the need for secure payment processing became really important. So imagine most accounting clerks, if you're in an AR team, now you're working out of your house, your apartment, your bedroom, and you don't want to take credit card payments over the phone. It just opens up a whole can of worms, right? Like when it comes to security. So I remember, like in March, April, when this whole shutdown happened, we did a webinar on one of our feature called PayLink, which essentially allows you to send a secure hyperlink in a text message to a customer's phone, so they can just enter the payment themselves, integrates back into ERP. That became a huge success.
Right?
But yeah, it became so big. But then now 3 years later, we're back to normal. But one thing that has changed, and has changed for good, is that a lot of small to mid-sized businesses are exploring remote options. I still remember, like, when the channel, like 15 years ago or so, there were only a handful of companies that had remote setup. Like, I think Avalera we joked about it all the time. There's, that they had majority remote employees. But now, literally, majority people I know have switched over to remote work, right? And that's how it's going to be, like in the industry too. So that's why with that, the increasing the concern of security has increased. So you have way more attention on how you take payments from your customers and how you secure those processes. So that is definitely one observation. Then obviously, like, people are looking for automation with that too. So process enhancements, you're looking into efficiently doing things, like instead of having a 10 steps AR process to be shrunken into one step and be secure. What I've noticed is that a lot of companies are hiring business analysts. A lot of them are fresh out of college too, whose job is just to improve processes. Hey, study the process. This is how many steps you take. Cut it down into one step.
Any perspectives that you have to share about the kind of the marketplace and how customers are trying to improve their operational efficiencies?
Yeah, I talked about automation. I mean, pretty much everything I said, like, applies. Like,
Yeah.
think of automation. Think of, you would rather have your team spend time on more pressing issues than manually entering payments and updating records and whatnot. Doing things manually is not only time costly, but also can lead into a lot of data entry related issues. So focus on that. Pay attention to reduce costs, because I mean, automation can reduce costs, but also pay attention to payment processing. And not all glitter is gold. So sometimes when you hear things like, oh, free software, free this and that, look into it, because they have tons and tons of hidden fees that could be. Try to understand what your ongoing fee structure look like, and work with companies that can keep those fees very transparent to you. Those fees can have a lot of layers, can be very complicated, but at the same time, it's not. It could be very simplified too. So make sure that have them understand, and whomever you choose, try to do like a 30, 60, 90-day review with your provider, just to understand that, hey, am I still getting the rate I was promised, right?
And I know you've done that with a customer prospect to try to help them understand their current fees and maybe how they can get, cost savings, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, Carol. It's part of our process. Most of our customers don't. Essentially, what we're trying to sell, our value proposition is not save costs as saving, like, hey, save money on processing fees. Is more about process optimization. So that's the reason why people call us, because they're either security concerns, or they have a 20-step AR process that they need to shrink it down into one. But then at the same time, they do ask about pricing too sometimes, and it is a standard practice for us to do a analysis, for side-by-side analysis, and we try to put a very clear picture in front of them to show them that, hey, this is what you have been currently paying, and this is what you would be paying if you move to us. So this way they understand very clearly what are the fees implications. So yeah, you're 100% right. We definitely do that. And the last part I would add on it is try to put self-service methods online, like let customers pay. If you don't imagine, just think about it like, would you ever do business with a company like a cell phone provider or any utility bill that says that, hey, the only way you can pay us is by giving us a phone call on this number or writing us a check, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. I don't have a checkbook. I think my last check, and I'm not even making this up, my last checkbook probably still says Washington Mutual on it, which was shut down many years ago. Likewise, our customers have exact same expectation. Empower them by enabling them to make their own payments. That is not only helping you save a lot of time, but is also making less secure for you and giving your customers a convenient 24-hour way so they can make payments at their own leisure, not at your business hours. So that was probably one of the biggest improving your processes.
Good. Yeah, that was really good. So, like, any new trends on the horizon you see developing for the future, and anything you want to kind of predict about might be in the near future?
I know I sort of like jokingly said that, I've been, not joking, but we actually are looking into it, but I do try to push a lot of things into AI. We will see a ton more AI in the business world. There is absolutely no running away from it. Yes, I do understand that there are some security concerns at the moment, especially like a lot of companies are discouraging people from using tools like ChatGPT right now, but you can't stop people from doing it, and it will be there. And just like any technology ever came, try to just get ahead of time and try to use that to your benefit. That is the only way to stay ahead of the curve. So my personal prediction is I think in the next couple of years, we will see a ton more AI embedded into all these applications, whether it's accounts payable, accounts receivables, any type of business logic. I would imagine a lot of these ERPs will start embedding some AI engine within their application as well. So that's probably one of the biggest areas that we can see growth on. Another thing I've noticed that's becoming more popular is what we call alternate payment methods, APMs. A lot of customers don't want to just pay by credit card.
Yeah.
Checks I mentioned, which is usually sometimes just like some people call it ACA, some people call it e-checks, some people call it direct debit. Essentially, it's a bank transfer type of thing. So we have to keep an eye out on those requirements. We have recently added APMs such as Google Pay and Amazon Pay and Apple Pay in our solutions. But those type of requirements are coming, and was just reading yesterday, the Fed now thing is becoming big. I don't know how that's going to impact the businesses on our side. That is yet to be determined, but keep an eye out. There will be more payment methods coming out, and possibly even blockchain crypto. That is definitely my prediction too for near future. We will see if feds are jumping in. I think the crypto world will jump in too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, lot of predictions there. So we'll have to check back with you in a year and see how those turned out. But so just kind of in conclusion, was like, is there one trend that you're seeing that is driving partners and customers to come talk to you?
I would say that among the competitive edges that we discussed, so end-to-end solution is definitely a big reason. I can confidently say that we are the only payment provider in the Microsoft space that has a true end-to-end solution. Everyone else who is competing with us is selling a third-party services behind the scene, but we are owned by a processor ourselves. So that does have a lot of benefits. So that is something that is one reason, and with that is kind of, the whole pricing that we talked about is connected to, because there's less middlemen. You get less, there's less people to take their cuts, so better pricing. But I would say above all of that, the most important is support. So I mentioned earlier that when it comes to payments, the business owners and business managers have least amount of patience threshold for their patients. They don't want to wait more than an hour to get this fixed. Businesses rely on their payments. Imagine running a store where you just can't take payments from your customers. You can't sell anything. So support is big. The reason why what we can do, what a lot of others is, number one is that, I did mention that because we are a processor ourselves, everything is under one roof. We support no matter where the problem is. But then another thing that I've noticed recently is that a lot of partners have called me and talk about our development team. So we do all in-house development. Every one of our developers are since beginning. We have never, ever used any third party to do any dev work. Everything is here, and majority of this is right outside of this Anaheim office. In fact, on the Microsoft side, all of this is outside the Anaheim, in the Anaheim office. The reason why this is big is because lately companies that don't have this, they are lagging behind in versions, upgrades, updates, right? So let's say if you think about it, if you're a partner and if you are trying to upgrade your customer to a latest version of the ERP, you have so many ISVs that you need to keep track of and making sure that they all have a compatible version ready before you can do it. And even if one of them is not ready, then your whole project can go sideways, right? We have always made a pact that we will, Microsoft gives us, I think, 90 days after the version release to get our products up to date, but within the first 30 days, our products are released. We have never missed that target. Our goal is to continue doing that. That essentially helps our partners, also helps our customers stay up to date as well. And having in-house development is essentially the key to that piece.
Awesome. So any last thoughts that you'd like to share with us, Fawaz?
Just, stay ahead of the curve, keep educating yourself, keep working with Carol Livingston and her team to essentially to stay up to date, keep with everything that's going on in the space, in the channel. This is Microsoft is a very, very mature channel. The community here has been around for a very long time. There's a wealth of knowledge here. Attend events, whether it's a virtual or in-person events. They're very, very helpful.
Well, thank you, Fawaz, for joining us today on this ISV Talks episode. It was really interesting, and thanks for joining. And here's Fawaz's contact information and their website. So Fawaz, thank you so much.
Carol, thank you so much for inviting me over. It was a pleasure. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Well, we'll talk to you guys again on the next ISV Talk. So see you then, friends. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.